walk with every sip and laugh. Coffee's the fuel, martini's the craft. Conversation swirling in the cool night air. Talk the walk, we're going somewhere.
Good morning, Alan.
I think the applause is continuing in the background. That's nice.
I can control that, right? So if you say something really clever today, I can hit that applause button.
Well, that's guaranteed to happen. We know this.
It's got a lot of power there. Alan, how are you?
I am very good. I think since we last did this together, I've been to Portugal, London, and Paris.
Yes, I was going to say it's been like over a month, and I have seen the images on your Facebook feed of all your travels. Tell us a bit more about what were some of the highlights of your recent trip to Europe?
Well, it turns out that Portugal is one of the hottest, that is most popular places in the world to go. The Times ran a big article on it yesterday, I believe. And a lot of Americans going there to retire because your money goes so far. But we had a private guide who told us that, when she grew up, you heard Portuguese and Spanish and some other languages, but now she said it's completely different. I said, how many languages do you hear now? She said, just one, English. Everybody's speaking English. Yeah, and the countryside's beautiful. We went to Porto, we went to Lisbon. The funny thing is, though, the hills are all 60 degrees. And here's the deal. You walk uphill to get to the restaurant, and then you walk uphill again to get back to your hotel. I don't know how that works. Seriously. It's like a Rubik's Cube.
Sounds like the Himalayas.
And then I met one of my older clients who lives in London. We always have dinner when we go there with him and his wife. We love London. I belong to a gambling club there since the 70s, for God's sake. And that was a marvelous time. We had high tea at the Ritz, which my wife always wanted to do. And then in Paris, usually I did a day and a half's workshop, like cabaret style in London. Now, we always stay in these big suites and penthouses, right? So in Paris, we did it differently. We got a pied-à-terre, little boutique hotel with a private a garden for me, a little private garden, two chairs, table, and all. I could smoke cigars out there. And the thing about Portugal and France and Spain and Italy, at least, is that they all have these boîtes, these coffee shops, these wonderful little places, and you can sit down, and they never kick you out. You have a glass of wine. You could have hors d'oeuvres, you could have a croissant, you can have a full meal, I don't care. But they're not saying like in American restaurants, well, you have 90 minutes and you have to get out.
Yes.
And the whole day there. It's just a wonderful attitude. And I'll tell you one more thing. In the narrow streets of Paris, the garbage trucks have to hold up traffic to collect the garbage. And so there's a light on the back of the truck on top that says in English and French, patience. Now, I contend if this were in Manhattan, it would say, so's your mother.
What a lovely little trip, and that backyard in your hotel is very British. I totally agree with you. I went out for just for coffee with a friend the other day, and they said, oh, you can't sit in the good seats because you're not having something to eat. And it's like, right. You know what I mean? It's just such a thing. We have MK that's joining us from Leanne in Brisbane. Great to have you here, MK. Thanks for joining us. Let us know where you're joining us from, and let's talk about the topic of the day, which I think is, this is going to be one of the best topics, Alan, not to set high expectations, but it's how to use words to increase your value, your demand, and your influence, something I know you're very passionate about.
Well, I'm a writer, I'm an honest to God writer. And I calculated once that among my books and newsletters and everything else, I've probably written 23 million words or something. But the thing is, the language is not just words. Language is metaphor. Language is social proof. Language is creating, word pictures. Language is analogy and metaphor. So it's what these tools are like. These words are like Legos. It depends how you put them together, and that's what you get. But it's really everything we do is about communication. Everything, and that's why language is so important. I'll say one more thing and you've heard this. Language controls discussions. Discussions control relationships. Relationships control business.
Yeah, I actually shared that quote with a team I was working with last week. Because so I was like, and I quoted you, and it gave them something to really think about in terms of how they're using words and language to even just articulate things. I'm not like, how many words in the English language do you know? I would say, most of them.
No. there are hundreds of thousands of words in the English language. The average person knows about 35,000.
Hmm.
I've been tested at about 55,000.
Okay. How did you get so good at building up your vocabulary?
Well, I don't like small talk. I don't like chatting. I love writing. That's how I communicate. And I find that the world has come in my direction because social media really requires written communication. And I find that uh, you can create tremendous, I'm always talking about branding and how, so my phrase is a brand is how people think about you when you're not around.
Yes.
So the language puts more color into the brand. And so I
Mm.
invent phrases, it's not just $1 million consulting, but I said
Mm.
to somebody about a year or two ago, he brings shallowness to new depths. And boom, that caught on, right? It just caught on.
Yes, yes,
I have a
yes,
phrase, it's as obvious as a ham sandwich, which is much better than just saying it's obvious. So uh,
yes, yes.
these are my toys. This is what I play with.
Okay, so let's talk about using language in the context of business, which you just alluded to with that quote. Why does it matter so much? Let's look at, I mean, like your main clients are consultants like me. Why does it matter so much for people like us to be smart at using language?
Because you are creating verbal pictures for someone. You are illustrating things for someone because when you use language, they are translating that into an image.
Uh-huh.
Consequently, they are seeing this with much more profundity, with much more depth. And the trick here is if you don't use sophisticated and colorful language, never dumb down your language. No matter what anybody ever tells you, never dumb down your language. I mean, I had a client once who took out a dictionary in front of me while I was speaking and looked up a word I had used. Good for him. And so you want to create this colorful vision that people have. And if the fewer words you use or the worst choices of words you use, the less they have the ability to visualize what you're talking about. So if you're talking about client success or a client's repute, and you can say to them, people are going to know you all over the world. You'll be like Kodak film. Your name will sound the same in every language, right?
Mhm.
That's in the,
Mm, mm,
and
mm.
they'll say, well, how does that work? Instead of saying, you'll be very popular.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. And actually, Ellen, one of my favorite books that you've written that I don't think you really talk about that often is The Martial Arts of Language. I actually have it in front of me. I wanted to share, so before you jump into that, basically just to share like a bit about the book and why I love it, is that you set up examples in sales conversations, what you might hear, and then how you would like advice from you in terms of how to respond. And up front, you share a few guidelines for use. So one is don't interrogate people. Employ follow-up questions. Trust is essential for candor. And never be content with a single question, no matter how satisfying the answer appears to be. Can you talk more about that fourth bullet point?
Well, it's too easy for people to give you an answer thinking that it takes care of your question.
Mm.
And it's easy because too many of us just accept that. I'll give you a simple answer, more complicated answer. I said to someone recently, who's your buyer? And she said to me, well, it's companies that do this. I said, companies don't buy. Individuals buy. Who's the person who's your buyer? So people don't always have discerning listening skills. And so you can't just be satisfied with an original answer. Because if I took that, so your buyer are technical companies, how do I coach them? I mean, how do you talk to a building, right? You don't do that. The more sophisticated one is that questions can probe very, very simply on our part. I'm basically lazy. It drives my life, right? So somebody says, well, we want to create more alignment and equanimity among our employees. So there's amity and not enmity, something like that. And so you could wrestle with that for 4 days. So I simply say, why? And when they have to answer that question, you find out what they're really talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. That's such a direct question, though. Why do you use it? I mean, it can be quite affronting. Or, I mean, you're Alan Weiss. I guess it doesn't really matter to you. That's your brand.
Well, I don't think asking why is confrontative. I think asking why shows curiosity.
That's true. That's true.
Look, here's the thing. We all get compliments, right? You get compliments when you speak. You get compliments from your newsletter. I know this.
Yes.
The key thing, though, isn't just to say thank you. The key thing is to say why. What did you like? That
Yes.
lets you replicate
Yes.
success, right?
Yeah.
You use good examples. You said that I could do this. I never thought I could. This gives you the ability to repeat success. But if you just take the pat on the back, so what? Then you might lose it.
Yeah, that's right. You're not getting the right information as well. So let's talk about, I mean, I want to, you've got some really great examples that I've heard, but I think our listeners should really pay attention to some of these in sales conversations where it may seem like, you're in the conversation with a prospect. It maybe things aren't going well or to plan. And then you'll say one phrase and in the moment you've completely turned the conversation around. Have you got some examples of these? Like I could actually quote some of your stories,
I'll
but
give you
it's
two or
better
three
coming from
examples.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you. Here's my first example. I sat down with a guy, and he says to me, "Look, I'm seeing you out of courtesy. Our company's never hired a consultant in their lives, and we don't intend to change that now. I just want to tell you that." I said, "That's fine. You don't know how many of my best customers today started the conversation the same way."
So good.
And so I changed the frame from his being the outlier to his being quite common and working in my community. Right? There was a guy says to me in Boston. This is an executive vice president, reports to the president. I'm doing something for the CEO. This is their investment guy. He's got the most profitable unit. And he says to me, "You're from New York?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Why would you live in a cesspool like that?"
Oh,
And I said to him,
wow.
"Can you tell me something? Why is it that people in Boston are so insecure about New York?"
You said
And
that?
I did. I
Yeah.
did. A woman says to me when she's arguing with me about some book that she purchased that she claims, I didn't send her and so forth. I had the receipt. And she says to me, "You know something? You remind me of my ex." And I said, "Why am I not surprised you have an ex?"
Okay, like, I don't know if I could get away with that. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I mean, this is why I think you attract certain people to your community is because of these phrases that you just use unapologetically.
It's about lifestyle. I'll give you one more quick example.
Okay.
All right. This one's kind of risque, but I'll give you this example.
Okay.
This is in the 70s. I was with this firm in Princeton, and I was a service guy working for the company's top salesperson. And I and another service guy accompanied him to Canada. Canadian International Paper was a big client. And at this plant where we showed up at 8 in the morning, the plant manager was a woman, which was unheard of at that time. Unheard of. A woman comes out stylishly dressed, looks marvelous, sits down, crosses her legs. She's sitting across from us, the service guys, but Sean, the sales guy, sitting next to her. And Sean is hungover from the night before. And as he's explaining our company and how it can help, he puts his hand on her knee. And Ronnie and I, the two service guys, we said, not only have we lost a client, but we might not get out of this plant alive,
Yeah.
And she starts to look down, and Sean's going on, and she says to him, "Excuse me, why is your hand on my knee?" And he looked down as if for the first time, and he said, "Oh, that's not my hand." And she burst out laughing. And that taught me, you got to be on the edge.
Oh, gosh. That is a risque example.
Sure.
But it really, I mean, like language it's so powerful in that it can disarm situations like that, right? With one line, because that definitely could have gone in a very bad way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've actually, in the martial arts of language, which I think you can get on your website, I like, so these are great lines. One I highlighted was when someone says to you, "I've never heard of you," you say, "That's basically because all of my work comes through referrals."
Yeah. And
So
some
smart.
people say to me, "I've never read any of your books." And I say, "Does that say more about me or about you?"
That's just fun. I just want to share a couple of more with listeners, and then I'll ask you another question. What can you do for me? Response: I don't know. Let's talk about it. So good, just so
Yes.
simple. Because I think we kind of freak out and go, "Oh, I can coach. I can,
Yeah. I can do the windows.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, "I don't know," let's talk. Yeah.
Yeah. Just really opens it up, and just it becomes more of a conversation, like you said, not a presentation. I want to talk about language and words when it comes to naming things. So one of the offers I think that I signed up for when I first started working with you was called Carton. you want to explain to listeners what that stands for? Do you remember that?
Oh, Caton. Yeah, I call it Caton.
Caton.
I mean, there's no correct pronunciation.
It's
I
the
made it up.
Australian pronunciation
Yeah,
of it.
it stands for kick ass and take names.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to say like that the name itself is like enticing, you know, and just I don't even care what the offer is. It's like I want to kick ass and take names.
And see that when you use language, you have to understand that when it's forceful, the people who can take it and live with it and enjoy it and appreciate it are the kind of clients you want. The people who are offended by my level of language are not clients that I want. And we have to know who our audience is. So it's very important. Now, if you want a broader audience, you have to soften your language somewhat.
Yeah.
You have to engage more people. You know, I'm not really interested in that, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be or somebody else shouldn't be.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the offers that I did was called Roasted by Leanne. So it was basically people send me their things and I roast them with love. I give them feedback, you know, and it wasn't like a mean roast. It was like a genuine, but the title I think attracted the right people to that.
Did you charge for that?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So I used to run the session with no more than 6 people for a morning, and they each got a sixth of the morning, and it was $2,500 each, and it was called Annoying with Alan. And I just gave them absolutely blunt feedback.
Really?
Positive and negative. Yeah. Annoying with Alan. Yeah. Some people signed up for it twice.
I think I need that actually. It's like it's a tune up, the annual tune up with Alan. Just to make sure you're calibrated correctly. Yeah, you should offer that again. Now, talk to me about like naming things. Like, how do you have a process of giving something a title?
Well, I like to be dramatic, and you know that I create the marketing for something before I create the content.
Yeah.
So what I did, for example, just pick any one. I did a Zoom session on Esteem. I called it the Esteem Machine. I liked the alliteration. You know, I liked how it sounded. Actually, it's onomatopoeia. And but look at $1 Million Consulting. I mean, that's a hugely valuable franchise, right? So I wrote a book, Confessions of a Consultant. You know the story. We changed it.
Yeah.
But the trade editor at McGraw-Hill says to me, I'm in her office. You know, we got to name this. It's not Confessions of a Consultant. I said, Betsy, I'll work on it. She says, you're not leaving the office. It goes into production tomorrow. I said, what can I tell you? It's about $1 Million Consulting. She says, that's the title. And so sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, but you can't be afraid to try things.
Yeah. And that just came up like it through a conversation, like no other way. And this is what I'm finding a lot of people doing. And look, I've tried it myself, but I'm just not getting the results, is using AI to name things. But everything I've tried to give to AI to name something has not been helpful. Anyway, then I went into Alan's forums. We can talk about AI in a moment. You know, I went to AI, I was thinking about it, and I love naming things. And I was like, I'm stumped on this one. And this was for a event that I wanted to speak at. I'd been invited to submit my proposal to speak at an aged care conference around the topic of innovation. And I went into your forum, Alan, and I said, oh, look, any ideas for this title? And you said to me, innovation never grows old. Genius.
It was for assisted living or something, wasn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Innovation never grows old. Yeah. And that came to me in 9 seconds. I mean, I just said, okay, what kind of contrast can I create here?
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, that 9-second moment. So you talk about contrast, I guess themes would have been playing in your mind. Like, it's very hard to, I guess, slow down your brain and what you're thinking about. But I think it would be very valuable for listeners just to hear a bit more about that process.
Well, there are several different things you can do here. I mean, actually, there's more than several. First of all, I practice reversal. You know, let's do the opposite here. Let's do something contrarian. And that's how my career began. Why quality control circles make no sense, you know? The second thing is you create an analogy. And sometimes an analogy with cognitive dissonance, you know? The innovation example you just gave, it's an old age home, but innovation, you know, is fresh and new and so forth.
Yeah.
I think the important thing here isn't so much content as process, in that you can't be afraid. You can't be afraid to try something. Some people actually don't participate in a conversation, even though they want to, because they're so busy trying to think of the right thing to say.
Yes.
Just say it, you know? Communication has this huge range from almost passive to engaged, to stimulating, to startling. The extreme end of this continuum here is warfare. War is the least subtle form of communication. So when I say everything's about communication, communication. You know,
Mm.
I mean it.
Yeah, yeah, very true. So let's talk about AI for a moment. And I think what is more damaging about AI is not some of the vanilla content we're seeing, but it's, I guess, people not using their mind to write things and to create. You writing a weekly newsletter. I'm about a year into writing a weekly newsletter, and I find it just quite cathartic because I have an idea when I start writing, and then it completely changes when like the actual thing that I send is actually quite different to what I first thought it would be. And it's because I look through each word and paragraph and go, that's not quite right. And just, I think there's real value in doing that. So in terms of writing for you, how do you, like, what is the damage of, I guess, outsourcing all your writing ability to something like a chat GPT or a Claude?
Well, just like using a calculator on your phone all the time, and you can't multiply 9 times 6 anymore, your brain atrophies. Your critical
Yeah.
skill thinking
Mm.
atrophies, just like your ability to do the times tables, is very dangerous. And it's getting worse and worse. I'm personally offended to even have a thought that I'm going to use AI for creativity. You know, I
Yeah.
can see using it to maybe reorganize something, but not for creativity. That's personally insulting to me.
Mm.
And I think that uh, I work the opposite from the way you do, which isn't better, but it works for me. And that is, I never rewrite.
Mm.
Uh, it's usually my head to the screen. I might be looking at like a little outline here from a book. Uh, but my podcasts, my videos. I mean, if you watch my videos, I don't do two takes. I correct mistakes right during the video. So I didn't mean to say that.
Yes.
But
Yes.
that's me. That's who I am.
Yeah.
And so it speeds things up considerably
Mm.
if I'm not worried about the perfect phrase, but just a really good phrase. And it turns out that, with all the alternatives we have for language and metaphors and so forth else, and so forth, we can really, if we just allow ourselves to, take from this huge inventory and use what we choose.
Yeah, I love that. And I think like when it comes to videos and audio, I can just talk things out. But with words, I think it's probably paying attention to what you just shared and just getting a good enough phrase to move on as opposed to letting it be perfect. When I wrote my manuscript for my next book coming out in October, I did that. I was just like, just get idea, just dump words on a screen and go for volume. And then, then the editing process was a whole other thing. But it felt good just to get the words out and get momentum as opposed to feeling a bit stuck.
Yeah, yeah. You don't need perfection. You just need good.
Yeah. So how can we improve our use of language? Like what skills can we do? How do we keep practicing this? How do we get better?
Well, the key, I anticipated you might ask me that. The key is you need to find other people's language that's really, really attractive to you and ask why. So here's an example.
Oh.
Here's one of my favorites. A guy is reviewing King Lear, and he says about the lead, he played the king as if under the momentary apprehension someone else would play the ace.
Oh, that's
Think
so
about how brilliant that
smart.
is.
That is so
I,
smart.
I wish I had written that.
I
Here's
know.
another one.
That's
It's a
so
critique
good.
of a two-line poem, and the guy says, "It's not bad, but there are dull stretches." So uh, I have a file here. FileMaker Pro is the software I use, but I have about 150 quotes that I've collected over 30, 40 years. And I put a topic with it. It might be, friendship, it might be travel, it might be consulting, whatever. And I have the source and I have the date that I recorded it. And I always give credit when I use them.
Mm,
Um, but I find that if I consider writing that I find attractive, it picks up on me some of the techniques and processes these people use. And when I went to university, I had a creative writing course, and the instructor gave a great assignment. He said, "I want you to pick one author, read their entire oeuvre, right, everything." And I picked John Updike, and at the time, Updike was in the midst of his tremendous popularity. He passed away about, I don't know, 5 or 8 years ago. But I read every single thing he ever wrote,
mm,
which is considerable. And I got a real feel for what I learned from reading Updike is if you want to write dialogue, if you want to understand how people speak, you have to understand how they think.
mm.
Now, you probably never heard anyone say that before, but I said it. And I learned it from reading what Updike did. Because I said, how can he have such captivating dialogue?
Yeah.
So if you answer your question, is that you have to read sources that have interesting language. And it could be fiction, it could be the newspaper, it could be something online, maybe. But that's what will help you with your repertoire.
I'm trying to think who would be my inspiration for that as well. But that's a really good thing that we can, all do. If you're listening to this and trying to get better, do you see the written word? We've got lots of media, TikTok, the TikTokification of the world and short form video and things like that. You still see writing as being, as just being evergreen and continuing.
Not only that, I do, but they predicted years and years ago that hardcover books are going to go out of existence. And in
Yeah,
fact, their sales are increasing. I'm doing a workshop. That's why this is here. Sales are increasing. And I think that people will read in different ways. They'll read ebooks, they'll read hardcover books. Some people like to listen, which is fine. It's a form of reading, listening to Audible. But I don't think it will ever go out of style because it fills so many needs. It not only helps to educate, it helps to provoke, it helps for entertainment, it helps to fill time. It has so many things. When I got out of undergraduate school, when I read every word on every page in every book, because that's why I felt I was in college. But once I didn't have to do that anymore when I was graduated, from that time to this, 1968 to now, I have never been without a book, ever, continually. Fiction, nonfiction, science fiction, biography, doesn't matter. But that's my continual learning.
Yeah, and I know, I think there's a list somewhere of what your top 100 books. You've created a list.
I have. I think it's more, probably 400. But anyway, it's by
Wow.
category of my favorite books, like military and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, I need to get because I think I was going through a stage where I was just reading business books, and I think I really lost out on that. Now I'm back into biographies, memoirs, some fiction as well. So that's good. It's helping, but I think I can just still improve in terms of the vocabulary that I use and using more analogy in my speech. And I don't know, like sometimes after a beer, it just sounds terrible. Like after like a glass of champagne, I think it's because of what you said earlier. It's like we kind of overthink what we'll say. And when you're a little bit sort of in a relaxed environment, you're like, wow, I'm way funnier, I'm way smarter, but it's just what's coming out is maybe more fluid and aligned. Not condoning everyone drink here. I'm just saying that's a thing.
I just wrote an analogy earlier today. I was on the forums and people were talking about LinkedIn, which drives me absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
There's just so much vapidity there, right? But I said my tech team posts excerpts on social media for me. They take care of that. I don't have to do it. And I said that takes the distaste away. In other words, it's like eating a lobster where someone else has cracked the shell for you.
Yes. Yes.
And you don't get it all over yourself.
Yeah. I'm not saying like everyone, g'day on LinkedIn. It's great to have you here. Hey, I just wanted to say, I'll post a link to this. So our documentary of our Nepal trip came out yesterday. So I just wanted to share that, and I'll share it in the link. It's an amazing watch. I think even if you're not even interested in hiking, it's just some good life lessons around just getting out of your own way. So I wanted to just plug that there. I'm really excited.
Even your still photos about that were fantastic.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, you can't take a bad photo over there. Now, Alan, we're talking the walk next at, so I'm hosting ConCon. It's in 2 weeks. So we're hosting a live Talk the Walk with you on Friday, the 18th of June that morning at the Gold Coast. And I'll hopefully have a couple of consultants on the call with me that I'll hand the microphone to as well. And we're talking about 3 events that are changing the world. So that'll be an exciting topic. Any closing words for our listeners on the topic of using language, Alan?
I would say just don't try to be too deliberate about it. Don't be too focused and ask yourself what's right. Just say it, because people miss out on entire conversations trying to decide what to say, and the train has already left the station.
A beautiful metaphor there to end our Talk the Walk. Thanks so much for joining us. Great to chat, Alan, and have a lovely evening.
Yeah.